Hey guys, it's Sep, and I'm here bringing you another Lichess 45-45 League game analysis. So this was my game played in round 5. As I said in the previous video, I had to forfeit round 2 and have alternates play in my stead for rounds 3 and 4 due to internet issues. At the start of this week, I managed to get my internet back, and I got paired against my friend Riemannn. So I've previously been in 2 teams on the same with Riemannn. In the first team I played in the league with, and the season after that as well, and then I haven't been on managed to get into the same team as him for subsequent seasons. This isn't the first time we've played against each other. In fact, if I flip the board, we quote unquote played a game last season, which I'll quickly go through with you now, which went. I was playing white. I played d4. He played knight f6, and he offered a draw and started goading me in chat, and said, "Yeah, you won't accept it." I proceeded to call his bluff and accepted the draw. So we played a 1-move draw and got double disqualified from that round. My part excuse for accepting that was I'd been feeling rotten and ill for that entire week, and was kind of didn't really want to play it. I wasn't really in the mood to play chess, and he jokingly offered a draw, and I would have turned it down if he didn't start talking shit in the chat. So I was just like, right, fine, I'll call your bluff, mate, and and then we proceeded to get a double loss. My advice is don't do that, because that is it's against the sport of against the sort of spirit of the league. But yeah, it's quite funny. We did get chastised in the ledger that week. In the ledger, was it the ledger? Yeah, the ledger that week. So we did get our comeuppance. So yeah, I'm playing as black this game. In previous games I've played against the English, I played e5. I'm not been hugely comfortable with the positions after e5. I mentioned in the previous video that the setup I usually go is like a knight c6, bishop c5, which is the Karpov variation, but then go for a quick a6, tuck the bishop back, and sort of delay doing anything with this kingside knight to see if they castle early. And if they do, then you can chuck the h-pawn up the board. Let's get rid of these. But I've not been enjoying those positions, and I wanted to try a different line. And I'd recently bought the Peter Svidler Grunfeld video series, and against the English he recommends in one of the lines going knight f6. So if they just play d4 for some reason, now you can go into a Grunfeld, which I do play occasionally, and after say g3, going into a symmetrical English, of which we're going to then play a quick d5 in Grunfeld style. And I've quite liked the positions that arise from this, and I've actually been able to use it in my white repertoire, because this is the symmetrical English is the only opening I've found where you can have the exact same position with colours reversed in that one opening. Because normally it's like, for example, in the English, people you can consider the English as a reverse Sicilian, but the lines are slightly different because some of the main lines in the Sicilian are really obscure lines in the English, and some of the main lines in the English are really obscure lines in the Sicilian. But this, if I flip the board, so after c4, c5, you can go knight f3. If they go g3, you can go d4. And the position's exactly the same, just colours reversed. And I just find that really interesting. So this is a line I play as white. I play knight f3 first, and then c4 if they play g3 or c5. But yeah, and it's sort of, the ideas from one position, so you can apply them to the other. So I've started playing this in my games. So we go into this, and the idea is to play the knight back. And I believe this variation of the symmetrical English is called the Rubinstein variation, when you drop the knight back early. So he castles. The best move here, the most accurate move, is to play knight c6 straight away. I played g6, which is not so accurate because it allows d4, sorry. With the idea of takes. If taking's bad because there's a lot of pressure on here. The best move, I think, is to go knight b5, after which takes, you trade off, and then it's a bit sterile. White can trade that to sort of damage your structure, but there's not really much in this position. Black having that isolated pawn is not too much of an issue because black has the two bishops, but it's just not it's not a position I'm sort of interested in. It seems a bit boring. The idea with the dropping the knight back is if they go d5, after takes, I can actually take the knight. And it's just, it's just a free knight, so obviously he's not going to take back with the knight. The Stockfish's favourite move in here, in this position, rather than g3 or knight c7, is to go, where is it? e5. And this is a reverse Maroczy structure, which is perfectly fine. But the reason I rejected this in my preparation is because Riemann plays, or I believe he plays, this is just going from previous knowledge, I didn't actually look up to see if he still plays this. He plays the accelerated dragon as black. So he's sort of comfortable with these Maroczy positions, and I didn't want to go into a line that he's comfortable with a tempo down. Even though if the computer says, this is the best move, I feel like it's playing in his, like putting the ball in his court. So I played g6, so I'm keeping it in English territory. Again, as I said, knight c7 was probably more accurate with the idea of g6 afterwards. He went knight c3, which I assumed he would do. He sort of, Riemann sort of goes for the same setup of the English, like with both knights on c6, c3 and f3, and the fianchetto bishop, and then like d3, moving the bishop out, and then sort of plays from there. So it's very easy to sort of predict what sort of line I could play. So plays knight c3. I drop the knight back. So the idea here is now the knight can sort of reroute that way and have more central pressure. I'm sort of clamping down, once I've fianchetted my bishop, clamping down on this square with all my pieces there. If that's good, I don't know, but I managed to draw some pretty arrows. So he played d3. I think he can play d4 here as well. I think that's fine. But again, it can come up to very stale positions, and I think Riemann prefers just playing this d3 position. So bishop g7, bishop e3. This is all theory still. Main move is b6, which I played. There's also, again, moving the knight to e6, defending the pawn that way. But I preferred this b6 idea with the idea of putting my bishop here and sort of neutralizing his good bishop, his good light squared bishop. So there's several moves here after b6. One of the main ones is queen a5. And this sort of hampers this idea. So if queen a5, if I do this, he has this, breaking open the center when I'm not castled. If I take, it's a big mistake because look at all these arrows. I mean, that knight's a fucking goner, to put it bluntly. The other move, apart from queen d7, queen a5, is queen d2, with the idea of playing the bishop over to here to trade off my kingside bishop, and then just bring rooks into the middle and just play the position from there. Riemann sort of played, let's get rid of these arrows. He played a move I wasn't expecting, but it's sort of a hybrid of one of the ideas. So he played queen c1, and I spent a while thinking on this move, because obviously now my theoretical knowledge is done. I knew queen d2 up to a point, and even though I'm trading off that in those lines, even though I'm trading off that bishop, there in lines after doing bishop b7, I can trade off his light square bishop, and the position's even. Probably a draw. But after queen c1, I sort of had to evaluate what the difference was and why he wanted to go there instead of queen d2. My reasoning was that he wanted to go rook d1. And he didn't want his queen on the same file, I guess, as the queen. He wanted to put it opposite my queen, put his rook opposite my queen. I guess that puts more pressure on it. I don't know if that's good or not, but that was what I thought he was going to play. So I just castled. Castling's good because I guess it gives me my queen. If anything with queen, rook d1 has happened, I can at least tuck my queen away onto e8, away from the line of fire if I need to. He played bishop h6, which was expected. The position's different now. He sort of delayed his development with queen c1. He's moved his queen, but he sort of delayed his development because it's still on the back row. His rooks still aren't connected. So I'd say this line's probably subpar to queen d2 if he's going to just go with this bishop h6 line straight away. I spent a while deciding whether here or here. I decided that queen d7 was just a bit bit boring, and I ultimately concluded that I didn't put my pawn on b7, so I could put my bishop on put my pawn on d6, so I could put my bishop on d7. I wanted to put my bishop on d7, so I thought I'll just carry on with that idea. A thing to point out here. So why I'm not so disappointed with losing my dark square bishop is because I've moved my bishop once, and he's in fact moved his bishop 1, 2, 3 times to trade the bishops. So I feel like I've sort of gained time. If that's negligible, I can't really accurately comment on that. I mean, we're both developed, we're both castled, both our queens are still on the back rank. It probably doesn't matter. It probably doesn't make much of a difference. I've got an extra pawn move in the position. Whether that pawn move is better than having my dark square bishop, I don't know. But I wasn't too bothered about trading it because he'd used several tempos to get rid of it. So here I was expecting rook d1 because, well, why else is this queen here? But again, he surprised me with this move. He played knight e5. So the computer just says taking's fine. Says that this position is just dead equal. It's like zeros all through. I'm sure if you gave this to 2 grandmasters, they would play a couple more moves and just agree to a draw. I didn't really want to. I put this bishop here so I could evenly trade those 2 bishops and sort of nullify his kingside structure. I wasn't too thrilled about trading off my light squared bishop and him keeping his, so I sort of rejected this move. But the computer says this is the best move, or is one of the best moves after that continuation. The other move I thought about was knight a5. So defending the bishop sort of in a roundabout way. And after bishop takes, knight takes, the computer says there's a slight pull for black. I rejected this position purely on the fact that I've somehow fianchettoed both my knights on the queen side, and I thought that can't be brilliant. That can't be brilliant for me. It seems a bit awkward. In the end, I went with queen d6. And my reasoning was that after, say, what was it? I thought I put annotations for this line. Yes. So after f4, say, f6, knight c5, queen back to d7. I thought this position was better for me because he sort of weakened his kingside structure, and those diagonals are very awkward for white. I also briefly thought of this. The computer actually says the best move for white now in this position after going knight c5 straight away is to go f4. I don't know why. F4 wouldn't be a move that immediately sprung out to me. I guess it controls like some central squares. It controls that knight square from the knight, but so he went back to g4 which surprised me again. He keeps surprising me in this opening, which I wish he didn't do because I don't like surprises. The idea is it's sort of caveman in my opinion. He's just threatening that, but the thing is, after king back, okay, if this pawn wasn't here, he would have a good attack if the queen wasn't there. But I just saw, oh well, that queen check doesn't do anything, so I just I thought, oh, I'll just carry on with my knight maneuvers, and I played knight e6. There is a problem with this move, and it's the move I completely missed. Knight e4, sorry, hitting the queen, also hitting the f6 square again. So now his idea is, say I play something stupid like here. His idea is check, back, check. And the only way I can delay mate in this position is by chucking my knight there. And I don't think he even needs to take. I think I've got a line somewhere else. Let's see if I can find that. No, I can't see where that is. I'll come across it later. But yeah, essentially, it doesn't even need to take. You can play f4, and then if the knight moves, it's checkmate. It's really awkward, and that's like completely winning for white. The sacrifice is sacrifice is good. So I played queen d4. So my idea was what actually happened in the game, but it's defending this square with the queen. I thought this was an only move, but Riemann actually pointed out after the game that queen d8 is also good, and the computer also likes that sort of x-raying the square, f6 square with the queen. I completely missed that, but yeah, it's a good point. I keep forgetting where I am. So queen d4. So the idea is if he say kicks the queen back, I can go back to say here, and he no longer has the check. He played check now. I went back, and now he played e3. So these two pawns are hanging. Taking either of them is probably really bad. So taking d3, so that just allows this. Don't even need to take, can just play that. And then I have this line, which is really it's just a really awkward position for black. If I take b2, I thought that d7 d7, what am I talking about? I'm terrible at chess. d4 was good for white, because I thought, oh, he's blocking the queen's diagonal, you can go for this. I completely missed the winning idea in this position for black, which is just f5, defending that square with the rook by moving the pawn out of the way, and that's just a really good move, I'd say. I might have come up with that if we did go through this line. The computer actually says, I believe, that the best move for white in this position, rather than d4, is actually going through this and then playing the rook there. So the queen doesn't have many squares on this diagonal. If the queen goes back here, then this rook's going off and it has to move off the diagonal, by which then we're going into the same line we went before. I didn't even really... I calculated prior to this position that I shouldn't take d3. I'll be honest, I completely missed that b2 was hanging. And after I played the move queen g7, I thought, maybe b2 is hanging. And then I thought, but d4, maybe I shouldn't have taken... maybe it's a good thing I didn't take b2. So we traded queens. I now have the threat of f5 again. So he moves the knight back. Here I thought I had the idea of trapping his knight. And I was contemplating doing something like f6 or rook b8. With the idea of f5. I thought rook b8 was winning, purely because I thought after this, if he played something like something stupid like that this would win the knight. But the actual I thought, he has to go to e5, and then I can take, and then he takes, and then I can recapture the piece, and I'm up a piece. I missed that he has this straight away, and then if I take the knight, he takes the bishop and Riemannn. If I take the bishop, then he moves the knight to e5 with tempo. He didn't even allow this. He played h4. I guess he didn't see the idea that rook b8 doesn't actually do anything. But it was a nice bravado move. So I played h5. He played knight back to h2. If you're scared of being attacked, just put all your pieces around by your king, I guess we can say. I played knight e5, which I thought was a nice prophylactic move. If it actually does anything, I'm not entirely sure. I think the computer just says for black just to take this. He can't take here because he loses the pawn. He can't play f5 because he loses the d3 pawn. I thought my knight is secure there, and it stops his knight coming back into the game. So I was pleased with that move. The computers didn't say it was brilliant. Like, it's not, the position's not like 100% winning here, but yeah, I was quite pleased with that move. So as I said, computer says bishop takes. He played rook d1. I played rook d8. Computer's saying I should just lop this off, and actually says rook d8 is an inaccuracy. Yeah, to me it looks the same. It looks fine, but the computer's obviously always going to know better. Riemann played now knight d5, so he's attacking the one weakness I've got, so the undefended pawn right in the corner. And here I had a bit of a think, and I came up with what I think is the winning... It's not a winning combination, but the winning strategic idea that ends up him blundering. So I took the bishop finally, played rook d7. So here here with the knight here, it's attacking this square, and it's also defending the pawn push to d4. So knight b5 is an I understand the move. It's got like a lot of thought behind it. And I really like the idea of rook d7, sort of teasing the idea of telling him to push the pawn. So he pushes the pawn, and my idea now is to go rook d8. So now he can't take the knight because he'll lose the exchange. And again in this position, so I think so here he must have miscalculated, and the position's got a bit sharper with this pin. And he played knight takes a7. So the line I assume he thought was rook takes, rook takes, rook takes, takes. And then just thinking, oh well, the position's even. He's got the control of the file. I'll probably win this, but he'll probably get onto the 7th. It's unclear. But he missed the idea that I can now just recapture this pawn. And now I've got rid of the pawn that's attacking my other knight. And this knight's now outposted on this square, controlling the knight's only retreat squares. This knight is now dropping, and there's nothing he can do about it. There's nothing he can do about it. The knight's stranded. I was very proud about it. I saw this position here. So that's probably the extent of my calculating ability. So I was quite proud of that. Normally I try and just play like positions that don't have like long combinations in them, but this one worked quite well for me. So yeah, he blashed out. So I guess the idea is here if I go here, then he can at least trade off his knight. Oh no, stop colouring. But I do now have the g4 square thanks to my h5 move. I'd like to say that I planned h5 for my knight to go in, my knight e5 to go into. That would be a lie. I didn't think that far. I didn't think that far through. I didn't think back here I would be in this position. So knight g4, sorry. He trades the knights off, realizes that there's nothing he can do about that knight, and he resigned. So yeah, I was very pleased with this game. We played through a fair amount of my prep, which is good because I'm not usually that big on prepping lines where prepping lines in variations my opponents are well versed in. I sort of prefer playing a variation that they don't expect, or changing up my repertoire slightly, so that any preparation they've used against me is sort of thrown out the window, which I was able to do because here, from not playing e5, because I assume, I haven't asked him, but I assume he was prepping against e5. So I guess after this, he was sort of going from his own knowledge before the game rather than any special preparation for the game. And then I just was happy I managed to calculate this correctly. So yeah, so that's my round 5 game. Any comments will be much appreciated, and please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I'll hopefully try and do more of these. Maybe I'll do a video playing a live game in future and talking about it live. I don't know if I'll actually go through that though. Anyone who watches my games in the league will realize that I do type quite a lot in the chat in using the whisper function, which is brilliant. So if anyone wants to come spectate my games, you'll get a lot of interesting insight, or just me talking about what I'm eating at the moment. But yeah, so I will see you next time, guys, and thanks for watching.